What celebrity have you met that was surprisingly nice? Rude. A lot of redditors mention Gordon Ramsay being lovely. My godsister can confirm. She worked at a hotel restaurant in Cornwall where Ramsay vacations at regularly. She was so nervous she spilt something, but he just gave her a really fatherly warm smile and went, "No, it's okay my darling," and continued on with his conversation. When I was a kid, my family took a trip to London and we were shopping in Harrods. Being the kid I was running around while my parents shopped. I ran up to this man, looked up and said, "You look really familiar. Have we met?" And he flashes a smile and says, "No. But I get that a lot," and then he walks off. My dad came right over and went, "You do realize that was Mr. Bean you just spoke to, right?" I don't think anyone would be surprised that Jeff Goldblum is nice. But I can attest to it. I was an extra in a movie with him. When he arrived on the scene, some nasty film crew woman was screaming at us not to bother him or ask for his autograph, which none of us had done. He must have heard her, because he turned right around and came over to talk to us. Paris Hilton. I didn't meet her in person, but I worked for an airline answering phones as a supervisor. She called in to change her itinerary on New Year's Day years ago when she was very much in the public eye. It would have been about 3:00 a.m. where she was, and I could hear the party going on in the background. She was my very first call of the morning where I was on the East Coast. 7:00 a.m. I was hungover as duck and in no mood to be at work. She was absolutely the nicest person to deal with. She was really sweet and patient. She made small talk while I changed her reservation and seemed genuinely kind. I was pleasantly surprised. I met both William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy at different times. Shatner was a jerk and just wasn't very nice at all. I've been around him twice and he was the same both times. Leonard on the other hand was incredibly cool. He was giving a talk at the place where I work and we all knew he was coming, so we sat at a table outside near the entrance so we could see when he arrived. His security people led him from the car to the building and we said hello as he passed. They took him inside for a private green room to relax before he went on. To our surprise, after the handlers dropped him off at the green room, he came back outside, sat down with us and just hung out. We talked about food and cool places to see nearby. We just chatted like he was one of the crew. Class act guy. One of the neatest celebrity encounters I've had. It's pretty well established that he's nice, but Hugh Jackman is one of the nicest human beings I've ever encountered. Will Smith. Worked a private event for him a couple years back. He made sure to thank each and every employee when he arrived and before he left. He had the best manners and was in such a jovial mood, joking around with the staff. Great guy. Back when they were filming Lord of the Rings All the Hobbits, Elijah Wood, Frodo Baggins, Sean Astin, Samwise Gamgee, Billy Boyd, Peregrine Took, and Dominic Monaghan, Maria Doc Brandebuck, came into my mom's video store and wanted to rent all of Peter Jackson's movies. They were so excited to have a movie marathon. I thought it was super cute. They were nice. I work in the film industry. Weird Al is insanely ducking nice. Like, you ask him for a photo and he'll make a 10-second video for your dad. Nice. I got to meet the street burner dog that played Beethoven in the movies with Charles Gordon. His name was Duke. He was a good boy. Dolly Parton is without a doubt one of the most polite, friendly and welcoming human beings I have ever met. I was catering backstage at one of her concerts. My job was to prepare the buffet for the backstage guests and basically be invisible. She entered the room and greeted everybody like they were family. Then she saw me and my co-worker and said, "Oh, come on over here. We're all family here." She made herself an equal to everybody in the room. Daryl Hall was a cool guy. Gave us all autographed shirts. John Oates not so much. Their crew let us, backstage caterers, watch the show from the wings. Melissa Etheridge was awesome. Super friendly to the backstage crew. I met Hilary Duff when I worked at a grocery store. She was having a party and came in for some cheese and crackers. She was super friendly. Met Vincent Price when I was a kid. He was speaking at the college where my parents worked, and since our house was next to the auditorium we usually hosted the meet and greets. I was only supposed to be allowed in with the grown-ups long enough to say hello, but when I blurted out how much I liked scary movies he stopped to talk. He was extraordinarily patient and kind to a 9-year-old kid who just wanted to talk monster movies and show off his monster dioramas. Robert Downey Jr. We were on the same flight. Super personable. Witty. I didn't realize it was him at first. I met Cary Elwes at a convention a couple years ago and it must have been an off day for him. I've only ever heard of him being the nicest guy. But that day he was rude and had his sunglasses on in the convention hall. Not a terrible thing. But definitely made him look douchey. And he had a smirk on his face the whole time I was with him. On the other hand, Cole Sprouse was the most laid-back kid I've ever met. I got his autograph for my sister as a high school graduation gift and he took his time with every fan in his autograph line. He took selfies for free with anyone who asked. That burned my sister when I showed her my selfie. Haha. And he wrote a very nice congratulations message to her. 10/10. Would recommend. I've written this before but I worked at Much Music in Canada. Quick standouts are that Taylor Swift was extremely nice. Very polite and easy to work with. Smelled amazing lol. Great person overall. Very nice to our crew. Ryan Reynolds was a prick. People are always surprised when I say that, but out of all the celebs I had to work with, he was the worst. I don't give a shit if he's Twitter's darling right now. Fall Out Boy were nice. Patrick and Pete were kind of strange and awkward. But nice dudes overall. Robert Pattinson, this was during the Twilight days, was so odd and strange but a really cool guy. Easy. Down to earth. You could tell he didn't give a shit about Twilight but he was funny and cool about it. Treated us all with respect. Paul Rudd. We were flying paper airplanes in the hallway and he joined in. Super friendly and nice. Grant Imahara, Mythbusters, RIP. Saw him at an art gallery where the artist did a live painting. Recognized him and told him that I was a fan. It was my first time in New York City. Just got off the plane and had my luggage in hand walking to my Airbnb. It was probably 2 AM and I heard a very distinct laugh. I looked across the alley and it was Sal from the Impractical Jokers standing outside of a comedy club smoking weed with his buddies. I went up and got a picture and talked about what to do in the city. I told him I'm from Oklahoma and he almost fell down laughing and said nobody is really from Oklahoma. It was great. Super cool dude. Sam Lloyd Jr., Ted on Scrubs, was incredibly kind. Our local minor league baseball team had a Scrubs night and gave away Ted bobbleheads and he was there to sign autographs. He shook everyone's hands and was hugging everyone and was genuinely excited to meet fans of the show. He tragically passed away this year from cancer. I work as a background extra and sometimes get to meet cool people. John Cusack was very nice. Billy Bob Thornton is amazing. There was only 10 of us working with him on a night shoot and he took the time to introduce and shake each of our hands. That never happens. Keanu is a doll. Tom Hardy is cool. I lost my shit over James Hetfield, Metallica, and he couldn't have been nicer. 13 Reasons Why cast was cool. They stuck to themselves but would say hi to us if they recognized us after a while. I was part of one of the core groups. Close bracket. TBH, I've yet to work with a DCK. Dave Grohl is as awesome as you would expect. Not me but my sister served at a restaurant Jason Momoa dined at when they were filming in Canada. Agent called ahead for a reso and they didn't have room. But this guy said something along the lines of being for his client who they wouldn't want to turn down. Jason Momoa walks in later. Apparently super chill dude. Nice to staff. Met Robert Downey Jr. when I was an extra on Iron Man 3. Very nice guy. Took some time out during a break in shooting to shake some of our hands and joke around with us. Awesome guy. Met President Bill Clinton. Donna Shalala was my teacher at and brought him in to talk to us one class. Ran outside after the class and he was talking with a few students. Went up to him and shook his hand and I was wearing a New York Giants hat. He said, "Man, that was a hell of a Super Bowl, 2012 Giants vs Patriots." Told him I was actually at the game and he said, "That's awesome." Saw Tori Spelling at the Ivy, Beverly Hills restaurant, years and years ago. She had a cigarette in one finger while eating mashed potatoes with that same hand and throwing bread at the waiter. Edit. To be clear, she was eating the mashed potatoes with her other fingers, not silverware. Adam Sandler. Met him on vacation when he was filming Just Go With It. I met Phyllis Smith, Phyllis from The Office, and she was a sweetheart. Entire cast of Teen Wolf. It is probably not at all surprising, but I met Alison Brie about 10 years ago and she was super lovely. It was in Nick at a Fashions Night Out event. I'm a big Community fan and mentioned so to her. She was very nice. Took a photo with me and complimented my necklace. I met the Fonz after seeing Book of Mormon at New York City. My younger brother ran up to him and yelled, "MR. The Fonz. MR. The Fonz, I haven't seen any of your work but I'm a big fan." He thought that was hilarious. Chatted with us. Told us to watch his new show and took a picture. Great guy. 10/10. Seth Rogen. I used to have a job as a backstage caterer. Hands down the worst was Kenny Rogers. He pitched a bitch fit about the food and threw plates at me. The best was Def Leppard. Specifically Joe Elliott. Back about 6 years ago, Elijah Wood was doing a film festival in my old hometown and came into the restaurant I was working at. And I got to make him pizza. Second proudest moment of my life. Which was made even better because Elijah was super chill. Tom Felton, Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter, was very sweet. Met him at Comic Con one year. He told me I had a beautiful smile. Patrick Stewart, an absolute delight. Waited on him several times. Literally went up to the line at the open kitchen and said thank you to the cooks. And thanked each staff member in a glorious fashion on his way out. Everyone's jaw dropped. Made our day each time. My dad met Lady Gaga at a restaurant in Nick and said she was one of the most genuinely sweet human beings he has ever met in his entire life. He called her enchanting and actually became a fan of hers after that. Saw Jonah Hill in New York a couple of years back. Didn't try to talk to him. Because he was just minding his business and clearly just trying to blend in. But I saw him decide that the person in front of him was walking too slow, so he pushed them with both hands. Completely unprovoked. Bro, I was at a party and went out for a smoke. He was randomly standing outside. And he asked me for a cigarette. I said sure. And we small talked. Pretty normal. When the chatting lulled, I said something like my girlfriend is a huge Superbad fan. Like inside jokes all day. I'm sure you hate it. But she'd get a kick out of it if I send her a photo. He glared at me and said, "If you're sure I hate it. Why would you ask?" Full stop. I don't even remember what I replied. I get it. But Jesus. Sam Neill. Event Horizon. Omen 3. In the Mouth of Madness. Jurassic Park. Peaky Blinders. Always plays a hard or monstrous character. He is a super nice and friendly guy. So happy to talk about his wine. His movies. Actually talked to my dad for a while about fishing and smoking trout. Such a genuinely nice person. Jared Leto came to the climbing gym I worked at once. He was just kinda a douche to the staff. From all accounts I have heard. He is an asshole off camera. I met Chris Hemsworth when I consulted on a movie. Super nice guy. Met Lisa Edelstein at a Starbucks in SF. Her smile is even more impressive in person. My old man went to high school with Brett Cullen, the guy who plays Thomas Wayne in Joker. My dad always talks about him in a positive way that one would about an old high school friend. But when my mom died in 2017, he came back to Texas for the funeral and did nothing but support my dad. Drink beer on the porch and shoot the shit. Totally cool guy who has been busting his ass in Hollywood since the 80s on mostly bit parts. Glad to see him in bigger things. There's a very popular Australian children's author, Andy Griffiths. We've had him in at work for author talks a few times. He is so invested in getting kids writing. He will chat for ages afterwards with kids who want to be authors, giving them all the tips he can think of. Lovely guy. Mark Ruffalo was a sweetheart. Jesse Eisenberg was very arrogant. Javier Bardem was cool. Not me. But my great grandfather worked for Charlie Chaplin once. Guy was humorous. All smiles. And entertained him. Along with the others. With his tramp disguise. Since at the time cameras were expensive and time consuming. Chaplin autographed my great grandfather's hat. I served Piers Morgan as a waiter and he was unbelievably polite. Jerry O'Connell is literally the golden retriever puppy of Hollywood. I met him a couple of times doing background work and he was always super cool to the extras. Like he was the host of a party and wanted us all to feel welcome and gave a good time. On a break he asked a couple of us to come with him while he walked up and down Hollywood Boulevard, telling tourists to please watch his upcoming movie Kangaroo Jack. Jennifer Aniston was also super cool. Treated us background scum with respect and wanted to chit chat with me between takes. Kiefer Sutherland is also a solid dude. Just a guy who likes to catch a buzz and tell jokes at the bar. Paula Abdul was awesome. I was part of her crew on some made-for-TV movie and was in a bunch of scenes. It was my first week in Hollywood and she was super excited for me. When she was wrapped she gave everyone in her crew big hugs. I've also met Stan Lee. Twice actually, 2 different Comic-Con years. At the first I got my picture taken with him and were instructed not to touch or talk to him. When I walked in, probably 15 years old at the time, he sweetly smiled and said hi. The second time I got that picture autographed and he was kind to both me and my father. Mike Vallely was super ducking cool. Met him outside a skate comp I couldn't pay for to get into. Dude paid my ducking entrance fee. Signed my board and gave me a deck. Well, now I want to be famous. Just so I can be super nice to people. Not me but my dad's story. My dad interviewed Mr. Rogers and Mr. Rogers was very nice. But the highlight of the interview was Mr. Rogers saying he was proud of my dad. If Mr. Rogers told me he was proud of me I'd cry like a baby for the rest of my life. My dad worked at an Arctic cat dealer and sold Reba McEntire a few 4-wheelers. She wanted some modifications on them. She was very kind to him and signed a t-shirt that they hung up in the shop. She came back later with a guy that was part of her security crew and her personality was totally different. Maybe she was upset about something that happened but my dad said that it was like night and day. After the shop shut down a few years later he took the shirt home. Gabriel Byrne. I was an extra in a movie he starred in along with Lena Olin and some chick. Anyway, once the director called cut the female stars would dart into their trailers. But Gabriel Byrne always hung out with the extras and crew. It was just after Usual Suspects and I think he thought he was good at impressions like Kevin Spacey is. He would do one and was so excited for us to guess who he was. We laughed politely but we could never guess. But he was a great guy to hang with. Pink the singer, in 2004, was incredibly friendly in a natural down-to-earth way. Considering she was on the height of her fame at the time. She was also shorter than me, 13 years old then, and smelled very fruity and waited patiently for my mom to figure out how to take a picture of us with her phone. Cool person. Met Waka Flocka Flame at a mall. Not a huge fan of him but saw there was a few people getting pictures so my friends and I went over and figured why not. We were last in line and when it got to us, This huge dude, a bodyguard I assume, got right in my face and yelled at me, "No more pictures." Floka just grabbed his shoulder and said, "Nah man, one more is cool." He put his arm around us, took a cool pic and thanked us for the support, then went off. I met Rob Schneider twice. He's from the same town as me and would come to all the schools and talk to the kids there, and he came to my class and joked around with us when I was in 6th grade. He donates a lot of money to the school district and funds their band program. I remember thinking he was surprisingly not that funny. I loved his movies, but I realized maybe he had to keep it clean. Because you know, it's a school. Years later I was stationed on a ship in Yokosuka, Japan, and I had duty and was on watch by the front gate. Rob was doing a comedy show on the base, and after he was done he came by and talked to the people on watch, signing autographs and taking pictures with people. He was absolutely hilarious. Matt Damon. My mom met Matt Damon, and when she mentioned she was a teacher he thanked her profusely and was so appreciative. R.L. Stein, Goosebumps author, is an asshole. Took my son on a school trip to the Scholastic store for a book reading. R.L. The scariest story of all. Edit. Thanks for the award. Kind stranger. I'm in LA, so I run into a lot of celebs. Elijah Wood is truly the loveliest human and Katie Couric is the opposite. Edit. I suppose I should say it's less run into than both meet professionally and work with. I don't want to imply I'm making snap judgments after a run-in at the valet stand where someone could be having a bad day, which happens to celebs too, so I try to give the benefit of the doubt. These were both prolonged interactions. And Couric was just pointedly, needlessly mean. It was a real bummer but also illuminating. Tony Hawk. I met him in an airport where he was sitting with his wife waiting for their flight. I walked up to him and said, "Man, I just want to shake your hand." Brother shook my hand and I thanked him. He was gracious and super nice. I had to do a promotional shoot with Jared from Subway way back before he was arrested and everything. Horrible, horrible, horrible person. Rude and ugly as hell to everyone and everything around him from the moment he touched down to the moment he went back on the airplane. When it came out he was a pedo, I was not surprised at all. No one is that terrible of a person and not gone all in. On the positive side, I got to do an interview with Jack Hanna, the wildlife advocate. He was awesome and kind and invited me on stage with him as he was going to do an encore. So I was able to join him on stage in front of thousands of people and get close up with his animals and take some incredible footage. Not a celebrity. Just Bobby Flay. He's a stuck-up prick in person. I was at a small event. He thought he was too good to speak to anyone but the host.